Hello, fellow gardeners. We're back for part 3 of seed starting in the Northwest. I brought these tomatoes to show that I had transplanted some of the seedlings that were getting big and drying out fast into bigger pots. And they are doing a lot better because they now have more room to grow and grow bigger roots, whereas then they grow a bigger top. But today we're going to talk about transplanting, and these are the seedlings that we've all been growing along with since middle of March, so March, May. It's been 2 months, and today is May 19th, and so we're kind of right on schedule. We've had a real warm May and April. No, not enough rain, real warm, which has tricked some of us into thinking that, oh, we can plant outside. It's been so warm and nice. So many of us did, and then last night on the 18th, and then tonight and tomorrow night in our area, it's going to be cold. Last night was cold, and some people regretted planting their veggies and flowers outside. You just never know, and it can change. You know, it's been wonderful and beautiful, and now it's cold, and at least today we're getting some rain. So I'm going to show you how I transplant, and you can, you know, if you're growing your flowers or veggies in a pot, or if you are planting them into the ground, it pretty much is the same thing. And it's definitely not rocket science. I just saved these little pots that you get when you purchase other plants. And I looked for black gold, my favorite soil, but they didn't have any. So Miracle Grow is a good one too. And I get in about half the pot full of soil, set it down there, and these are in their little pony pack cells, and you squeeze the bottom of the cell, kind of tilt it, kind of encourage it to come out. There it is. I thought these would be bigger than they are. I don't think I fertilized them enough. So anyway, you place the seedling in the pot, and then I'm just going to use another pot and fill it with soil. It's nice to have like a potting bench or some kind of area where you can do this and not worry about getting dirt everywhere. And then you just push it down in there. Set it over here. I'll set it right there. And then same thing. So we've got our basil and our jalapenos and our tomatoes. And you pretty much treat them all the same. I would be reluctant now to put tomatoes and peppers outside because they are warm season crops and they don't like it when it's cold. And we may have it freeze tonight or tomorrow night. So again, you squeeze the bottom of the pony pack. You encourage the little seedling to come out. You definitely want to be careful that you don't pull it and squeeze the stem. We talked about this last time when you're, thinning or working with your seedlings. You don't want to squeeze the stem because that's where water goes up and sunlight energy goes down. So it'd be better if you have to move them around or something to use the leaf. So this one's a little more root bound, and you can just lightly encourage the roots to come out and fill the pot with soil and smush it down. Okay, and I usually have a flat where I set all these transplanted pots in it, and then you take the whole thing out on the grass and give them all a squirt with the hose or a watering can with a spray head. So that gets them all wet and helps settle the roots in. So, and I'm going to show you how to do a basil too, which is pretty much the same. This basil has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seedlings in it. That's too many. I didn't do a good job thinning on that one, but this one has 3 in there, and they're well spaced and they all look good. And so I'm going to just transplant them all together into one pot. And you can see they've got quite nice roots. So I'll put them in a round pot. Get the soil, lay it in like that. Add more soil. Push them down in there. Add it to the flat. See, those look pretty good. You could plant them directly out into the garden in a couple of weeks. Basil's a tender plant too and doesn't like the cold. So, you know, you can take a risk and plant them outside, which I'll confess I did. I planted my tomatoes and jalapenos and basil out into our little garden patch. It's pretty protected. It's got a fence all the way around it, and my plants looked okay this morning. They survived, but it is risky to you know, get too excited and get them out there just because it's been nice, and but sometimes we pay for it. And also, I did plant out my zinnias and snapdragons and bells of Ireland out in this big open flower patch area, and I worried all night last night about them, and there was no way to cover them because I didn't have a sheet that big. Anyway, they looked okay this morning. Sometimes it's not evident right away that, you know, they were affected by the cold. Anyway, the flowers we planted into a flat, not a flat of soil, so not in separate little pony pack cells. So I want to show you how I do those. And this shovel's, you know, I like the narrow one. It's less disruptive than a great big trowel. So I go down and I'm kind of cutting through the roots right here. And I lift up this. And these are the zinnias. And they have done really well as seedlings. So these are snapdragons over here. And, you know, sometimes you just have to let some of them go because some of us need it. I was going to say, who needs like 65 snapdragon plants? You can give them to your neighbors and friends and stuff, but ones this big, you know, you don't, probably by the end of the summer, they just start to bloom and then they freeze. But anyway, here's the zinnias, and some of my zinnias that I planted outside directly into the garden, if they were this close together, I planted them together. If they were more spaced, I did one at a time or one per spot. They, like pretty much any plant, do better if they have room on their own. So you could separate these two and put them in a pot of soil, or put them outside. It's the same kind of technique. And I recommend when you're, separating plantlets, seedlings that are in a flat of soil like we're doing now, so you're kind of tearing the roots apart. If you're planting them outside, do it in the evening, because then and then water them right away. So the water helps the soil come in contact with the roots, and then the plants will sit there all night and they will be fine in the morning. So when the sun comes up, they're going, oh, this doesn't look familiar. But if you did that first thing in the morning, tear the roots apart, put them outside, water them in, and then it's 80 degrees and the sun's beating on them, they will wilt and they may not come out of it, depending on what the coming night is like and the next morning. So I recommend doing this in the evening or on a cloudy, cooler day. Don't transplant outside when it's going to be 80, 85 degrees, or they will be unhappy. Especially zinnias. They're not the best. They don't really enjoy being transplanted. So that's a tip that I learned, over the years, the hard way. Sometimes I transplant them and they just do terrible, and it's because I did it when it was too hot and expected too much of them. So there's the zinnias, and you want to fill up a flat of these little transplanted ones and water them as soon as possible. Don't wait and, I think I'll go have lunch and come back. You'll want to water them right away, because that will just help them settle in that much quicker. And I think you get the idea of how to transplant. Again, don't pull the plant out of the pony pack by the stem. You'll squeeze it and then it won't be happy. And I think that's about all. If you have any questions, come in and we can get in some fun conversations about planting and transplanting and what does better and what doesn't, and all that kind of fun stuff. Thank you all for enjoying and taking part in our Starting Seeds in the Northwest program. I hope you've learned a lot. There's always something to learn. Every year you learn something new about gardening. So thank you again, and happy gardening.